So now we're going to start talking about finger patterns that you can use for the Dorian scale. Now for any scale, there is an almost endless number of fingerings that you can use on the guitar to play that scale, and they would all be correct. But again, we're going for simplicity. The system that I'm going to show you here in a couple of minutes is going to simplify things to a point where you see things clearly up and down the neck. After that is established and you get used to that process, you're going to find that you can make almost an endless number of other fingerings based on what you know very simply. All right, but what we're going to do is start by looking at the roots that we already know about within the positions. So I'm going to go down here to the first position. We know already that the A roots are here, here, and here, right? So I'm going to ask a question here about some things in these positions. If I was to start the A Dorian scale on this A and finish the scale when I got to this A, so that's from the 6th string over here to the 3rd string, right? How many strings did I use to play that scale? The answer is 4. I used 1, 2, 3, 4 strings to do that. Well, how about if I go to the next 2 A notes in this position, from here to here? If I start the scale here and finish it here, how many strings do I use? 3. Okay, so I had 4 strings that I used here, and I had 3 strings that I used here. Let's move up to the next position for the roots. If I start the A Dorian scale here, and I finish it here on this A, how many strings did I use? I used 3 strings. Let's go to the next one here, from this A to this A. How many strings? I used 4 strings. So we had 4 strings, 3 strings. Up here, 3 strings, 4 strings. Let's go up to this position. Now there's only 2 A's here, so from here to here, from root to root, how many strings? 3. Something's happening here. Every time we play from root to the next root, it's either taking 3 or 4 strings to finish the scale. Well, something is definitely going on with this. I'm going to go up here, from this A to this A. How many strings to play the scale? 4. From this A to this A, how many strings to play the scale? 3. So no matter where you are in a position, doesn't matter which position you're in, it's either going to take you 3 strings to finish the scale from root to root, or it's going to take you 4 strings to finish the scale from root to root. What that means is you will use the same fingering every time it takes 3 strings to go from root to root. It'll be the same fingering. Every time or every place that it took 4 strings to go from root to root, there's going to be a different fingering that you learn to play the same scale, but it's going to be the same fingering everywhere it took 4 strings. So there's going to be a 3-string fingering, or we can say there's going to be a 3-string pattern, and there's going to be a 4-string fingering, or a 4-string pattern. So that's as much as you can simplify things. There is no one fingering that you can use and play a scale on the guitar and not miss any notes anywhere. But you can break it down, and the shortest, smallest number that you can break it down into is these 2 patterns. Now there is an advantage later to seeing, as I was saying earlier, more ways of playing a scale, but that comes later. You're going to base it all on what we see with these 2 patterns for the Dorian scale. And you'll find it's pretty easy to extrapolate into many other patterns. All right, when I show you a fingering pattern for any scale, I never do it illustrating a note being used on the 2nd string. Why is that? Because of our previous discussion about the tuning difference of the 2nd string compared to the others. We're about to establish a fingering pattern here. And what we know about the 2nd string when we follow patterns is that on the 2nd string, to compensate for that difference of tuning, you need to raise it a half step on the 2nd string. Well, that's something you're going to deal with for the rest of your life, unless you decide to tune your guitar differently, which I wouldn't necessarily recommend. So no second string will be involved initially when I show you what the finger pattern is. So here's the 3-string pattern. You already know how to do this, but you just may have not recognized that this pattern is all over the place. This will be 50% of the neck of the guitar for this scale. We're going to talk about these patterns in terms of fingers and where they move. All right, so 1, 2, 3, and 4, we know that. This finger pattern, 3-string pattern for the Dorian scale is 1, 3, 4, next string, 1, 3. Then the part of this pattern is that it shifts down 1 string and plays 1, 2, 4. So anytime we do shifts within a pattern on the guitar, it's never by more than 1 fret. This was down, sometimes you might have to shift up, but the shift will never be by more than 1 fret. So again, this finger pattern is 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, shift down a fret, 1, 2, 4. Now when you memorize finger patterns, memorize them forward and backward. Why? Because obviously you need to play down scales backwards too. Whoops. So when I do that backwards, it's 4, 2, 1, and then I shift up, 3, 1, 4, 3, 1. So you have to think about this a little bit in the beginning, but it's going to give you clarity later on, guaranteed. So one last time. Okay, this pattern is, like I said, 50% of the neck of your guitar when you're playing this pattern. Now what you got to remember is, anytime we move, you're going to do that pattern, by the way, from every single A note on the guitar, all of them. I'm going to come down to here to our lowest root. I know I have an open string down here, but like I said earlier, we're just going to forget about that for now. And we're going to start right here on this A with my first finger. The pattern was 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, shift down, 1, 2, 4. But I'm going to encounter the second string here. So 1, 3, 4, 1, 3. Yeah, it doesn't work, right? Because I didn't shift up. So it's 1, 3, 4, shift up, 1, 3, and then the pattern says I have to move down and play 1, 2, 4. So this part of the neck of the guitar, it is this 3-string pattern, but it looks initially different because you have to do the shift on the second string. So it's 1, 3, 4, up, 1, 3, and the pattern says move down. So it literally is the same thing as this. So once you spent several days with this adjustment tuning on the second string, it'll start to become second nature. All right, now I'm going to go to this A. I'm just going to work my way up the neck with the A's. We did this one. We started with this one. I'm going to come over here to this. Now what you're going to notice is I only have 1 string to play on. When I move over, there's nowhere to go. Well, there are places all over the neck of your guitar every time you play anything where you're going to run out of room. You're going to run out of room this way, you're going to run out of room that way, you're going to run out of room this way, and you're going to run out of room that way. So when I play this, you can only play as much as there is. The pattern is 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, down, 1, 2, 4. Well, all I'm going to get is 1, 3, 4. So I'm going to call that a partial pattern. But it is the 3-string pattern. It's just that I have no more strings to go to. So here's what I've got so far. Same pattern is right here. Tuning. I go here, I run out of strings. But it is that pattern. Now I'm going to jump to this A. Okay, I can get the pattern finished, but I still will have to deal with this second string. The pattern says I have to move down, but the tuning thing tells me I have to move up. So guess what? It cancels it out right here. And you actually stay on the same fret. So again, the pattern would tell me to move down, but the second string says, nope, you got to shift up. So it's literally the same pattern. Okay, next A. I'm only going to get a partial pattern. I only have 2 strings to play on. All right, but that partial pattern is there, and you want to make sure that you see it. Okay, now I'm going to come up to this A. No tuning adjustment. I just play it actually standard, normal. Okay, if I come up to here, I'm now repeating. Tuning adjustment. So they go up, obviously, until you have no more frets. So the first thing you should do is probably jot down this finger pattern, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, shift down, 1, 2, 4, and practice that on every A, just like I illustrated it. You know, if you had the book, these are all, every single one of these is illustrated with a diagram, but for now, just do what I did slowly and get that 3-string pattern together. The next thing I'm going to show you is the 4-string pattern. Okay, again, I'm never going to show you an initial pattern with the 2nd string involved. So in this case, I have to start on the 6th string to show you this, since this pattern involves 4 strings. Otherwise, I would hit the 2nd string. So we're going to start right here. And it starts with my 4th finger on the root. Remember that. So the pattern goes, and you've already played this, you just didn't recognize it yet, most likely. 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. I'll do it again. 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. And I'm going to do it backwards. And you'll see in a few minutes that you want to be able to think this backwards as well. So you want to be able to say 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, going up and coming backwards. 1, 4, 3, 1, 4, 2, 1, 4. You might want to write that down. Okay. I'm going to do this on every A. I'm not going to do it here because I'm going to run into open strings and I just want to avoid this area right now. I'm going to come here. I'm doing all my A's in order. Well, the very next note would be on the next string, so I really have nowhere to go from here. All right, over to my next A, putting my 4th finger on the root every time. 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. Why did that not sound right? Oh, tuning on the 2nd string, right? Got to move it up. 4, 1, 2, 4, shift up. 1, 3, 4, 1. There it is, and backwards. Anytime you have a tuning adjustment to make sure you practice these several times more to really get it straight. Okay, I'm just going to go through these relatively quickly. When you do them very slowly. So my next A's here. It's a partial pattern. 4, 1, 2, 4. That's all I can get. Okay, then I come over here. I can get the whole thing. There will be a tuning adjustment. Okay, and then here I can show you what was going to happen down here with open strings. Tuning adjustment comes right away. So 1, but I've got to shift up. So 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1. Shift up. Another partial pattern. So in the initial stages of doing this, certainly the first few days, you should stay with the exact fingers. You know, I know that later on maybe it's easier to play this using your 3rd finger there, but don't do that initially. Really get these finger patterns straight in your head. Okay, so after that they're going to repeat. So what we've done is bits and pieces of the neck. The point is, it's all made of 2 patterns, but what about the holes that we left in the neck? Okay, here's where that comes in. When you play in a position across the neck, this goes for every scale you ever do, period. As long as we're talking about playing across the neck. If I start by playing the 4-string pattern here, because the next root is here, as soon as you finish one pattern, as long as you have more strings to play on, it goes to the other pattern immediately. And if I do it all backwards, and then backwards down the 4-string, now you may think you're done here, but you're not. You have to go backwards down the 3-string pattern until you run out of notes. That's the back part of the 3-string pattern. So this position that you already knew how to play, you now want to visualize it as 3- and 4-string patterns and start seeing exactly where they are. The same thing happens, I'm going to go this super quick in this position. 3-string pattern to a 4-string pattern to part of a 3-string pattern. It has to go to a 4-string, and there's a 3-string left over. Okay? See if you can figure that out for all the positions moving across.